The Great Hall of Velora Prime sparkled with lights from 1,000 different worlds. Aliens of every shape and color gathered for the Galactic Council Summit, the most important meeting of the year. Ships from across the galaxy had brought their leaders, scientists, and warriors to show what their civilizations could do. Una stood near the center of the hall, her silver skin gleaming under the lights. She was the princess of the Kelthoran Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Her people had mastered faster than light travel when humans were still living in caves. She knew this, and she made sure everyone else knew it too. "Look at the human display," Una said loudly to her attendant Nari. Her voice carried across the hall. "They'd bring us chemical rockets and call it achievement. My people were bending space itself 3,000 years ago." Several diplomats turned to look. Some appeared uncomfortable. Others pretended not to hear. Near the human display, a man in a simple blue uniform continued explaining Earth's new fusion drive to a group of interested aliens. He did not seem to notice Una's comment, or perhaps he chose to ignore it. His name was Jiho, and he was one of Earth's chief engineers. He had spent 10 years developing the technology that humanity was so proud to share today. To him, it represented countless hours of work, failure, and finally success. To Una, it was nothing more than a child's toy. Emperor Hyamu, Una's father, watched his daughter from across the hall. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt shame. Una was brilliant and strong, but she had grown arrogant. She believed Kelthorans were superior to all other species, and she never hesitated to say so. The day continued with various demonstrations. The Kelthoran Empire showed technology that could create matter from pure energy. The Volthan Collective demonstrated weapons that could destroy planets. Earth showed its fusion drive and a new water purification system that could work on any world. When Jiho finished his presentation, he walked towards the diplomatic dining area. He was tired but satisfied. The other species had shown genuine interest in human technology, even if it was not as advanced as theirs. That was enough for him. "Excuse me, human," a voice said behind him. Jiho turned to find Princess Una standing there, her arms crossed. Her attendant Nari stood 2 steps behind her, looking nervous. "My name is Jiho," he said politely. "How can I help you, princess?" "I wanted to see the face of someone who thinks a fusion drive is impressive," Una said. "Tell me, do your people still use wheels for transportation too?" Jiho took a slow breath. He had dealt with difficult people before. "We use many methods of transportation. Each has its purpose." "How primitive?" Una laughed. "My people stopped using physical vehicles millennia ago. We simply fold space around us and appear where we wish to be." "That sounds very efficient," Jiho said, his voice still calm. "Perhaps one day humans will learn such things. We are still young as a spacefaring species." "Young? You are infants. Barely evolved primates who stumbled into space by accident." Una stepped closer. "I doubt any human could compete with a Kelthoran in anything that matters." Other diplomats were watching now. Emperor Hyanwu began walking toward them, sensing trouble. "We each have our strengths," Jiho said carefully. "Humans may not have ancient technology, but we have other qualities." "Such as?" Una challenged. "Adaptability, determination, the ability to solve problems with limited resources." Una laughed again, louder this time. "Empty words. I declare before this council that no human could ever best me in any contest of skill, intellect, or valor. Your species is simply inferior." The hall went quiet. Emperor Hyanwu reached them, his face now showing clear displeasure. "Una," he said sharply, "you go too far." "I speak only truth, father," she replied. The emperor looked at his daughter, then at Jiho, then back at Una. In Kelthoran culture, there were ancient laws about honor and pride. When someone made such a bold claim, there were consequences. "You have invoked the old words," Heinwu said slowly. "You have made a declaration of absolute superiority before witnesses. Do you understand what this means?" Yuna's confidence flickered for just a moment. "Yes, father." "Then I invoke the law of proving," the emperor announced loudly. "If any being here challenges my daughter and wins, she must accept whatever terms they demand. This is our way. This is our law." The Kelthoran delegates gasped. Nari put her hand over her mouth. Even Yuna looked shocked. The law of proving was ancient and absolute. No Kelthoran could break it without bringing shame to their entire family line. Jiho stood quietly, thinking. He had not wanted this confrontation. He had come to the summit to share knowledge, not to fight. But Yuna's insults were not just about him. She had insulted all of humanity, calling them inferior and primitive. "I accept the challenge," Jiho said clearly. Yuna stared at him. "You what?" "I accept your challenge, princess. I propose a contest of survival on Karo 7, the Dead Moon. 1 week. First person to reach the summit of Mount Taraxis and activate the emergency beacon wins." Karo 7 was famous throughout the galaxy. It was a harsh, deadly place where few species could survive, even with advanced technology. The temperature swung from burning hot to freezing cold. Predators hunted in packs. There was almost no water, and the thin atmosphere made breathing difficult. "You would challenge me there?" Yuna asked, her arrogance returning. "I accept. This will be easy." Emperor Heinwu looked at Jiho with new interest. "Human, do you understand what you risk? If you lose, my daughter may demand anything of you." "I understand," Jiho said. "And if I win, I will state my terms." "It is agreed then," the emperor declared. "In 3 days, both will be transported to Karo 7. The Galactic Council will monitor from orbit. May the most capable being win." As the crowd began to talk excitedly, Yuna smiled with absolute confidence. She would crush this human and prove once and for all that Kelterons were superior. Jiho simply nodded and walked away. He had much to prepare and very little time. He knew something that Yuna did not. Survival was not about having the best technology. It was about understanding the environment and adapting to it. Humans had survived ice ages, droughts, and countless disasters on Earth. They knew how to endure. The bet was made. The challenge was set. In 3 days, everything would change. The transport ship dropped them on opposite sides of Karo 7 at dawn. Yuna stepped onto the rocky ground with grace, her environmental suit shimmering with energy. The suit would protect her from the harsh atmosphere, regulate her temperature, and even provide food and water through molecular synthesis. On her back was a gravity pack that would let her fly short distances. At her belt hung an energy weapon, a medical kit with nano-repair technology, and a scanner that could detect any danger within 5 kilometers. She looked at the distant peak of Mount Taraxis and smiled. The mountain rose like a black tooth into the purple sky. 7 days to get there? She would do it in 3. On the other side of the moon, Jiho checked his equipment carefully. He wore a simple thermal suit that would help with the temperature, but offered little else. In his pack were basic supplies: a knife, rope, a water purifier, fire-starting tools, some dried food, and a first aid kit. He also carried a small tent, a sleeping bag, and a climbing harness. Everything was human-made, designed for reliability rather than sophistication. He studied the terrain ahead. Rocky deserts stretched for kilometers, broken by deep canyons and jagged hills. In the distance, he could see the mountain. He began walking, setting a steady pace that he could maintain for hours. The first 3 days went exactly as Yuna expected. Her scanner showed her the safest routes. When she encountered a canyon, she simply flew over it with her gravity pack. When the temperature dropped at night, Her suit kept her comfortable. She ate food created by her molecular synthesizer and drank water pulled from the air itself. She made excellent progress toward the mountain. Jiho's journey was much harder. He had to climb down into canyons and back up the other side. He searched for water sources, finding small pools collected in rock depressions. He walked for 10 hours each day, rested for 8, and spent the remaining time preparing for the next day. At night, the cold was intense even with his thermal suit. He built small fires using dried plant material he found in sheltered areas. On the second day, he encountered a pack of 6-legged predators. They were the size of large dogs, with armor-like skin and sharp teeth. Jiho climbed onto a rock formation and threw stones to drive them away. It took 2 hours, but eventually, they lost interest and left. On the third night, Yuna was more than halfway to the mountain. She calculated that she would reach the summit by the 5th day, maybe earlier. She relaxed in her environmental suit, letting it massage her muscles while she slept. Jiho was less than a quarter of the way there. He knew he was behind, but he was not worried yet. He had planned for a slow journey. The key was to conserve energy and avoid injuries. Everything changed on the 4th day. The storm came without warning. The sky turned black and lightning began striking the ground all around. But this was not normal lightning. Electromagnetic energy danced between the rocks, creating a web of blue and white fire across the entire region. Yuna's suit began beeping warnings. Interference detected, the suit's computer announced. Magnetic field strength exceeding safe parameters. Shield integrity compromised. Yuna tried to activate her gravity pack to fly above the storm, but nothing happened. She checked her scanner. Dead. She tried her molecular synthesizer. Dead. The storm was releasing massive electromagnetic pulses that fried all advanced electronics. Within an hour, her suit was nothing more than fabric. The energy shields failed. The temperature regulations stopped working. Her weapon would not fire. Even her communications device was silent. She was alone on a deadly moon with no technology. Panic set in. Yuna had never been without her technology before. She did not know how to make fire. She did not know which plants were safe to eat. She did not know how to find water without a scanner. She tried to continue toward the mountain, but without the scanner, she walked directly into a maze of canyons. She got lost, wandering in circles as the temperature began to drop. By nightfall, she was shivering violently. The temperature had fallen below freezing, and her suit provided no protection. She found a small cave and crawled inside, hugging herself for warmth. This could not be happening. She was a Kelthuran princess. She was supposed to be superior. But right now, she was just cold, scared, and very much alone. The storm affected Jiho too, but differently. His equipment had no advanced electronics to fail. His knife still cut. His rope still held. His fire-starting tools still worked. When the storm hit, he found shelter in a rocky overhang and waited it out. On the 5th day, the storm passed. Jiho continued his journey, moving carefully through the same canyon maze where Yuna was lost. He saw tracks in the dust, probably from some animal. Then he noticed something odd. The tracks were too regular, too purposeful. They were not animal tracks. They were boot prints. He followed them and found Yuna collapsed against a rock wall. Her lips were blue, and her skin had lost its usual silver glow. She was barely conscious. Jiho knelt beside her and checked for injuries. No broken bones, but she was suffering from severe cold exposure and dehydration. He had a choice to make. If he left her here and continued to the mountain, he would win easily. She might even die out here. But if he helped her, he would lose time and share his limited supplies. He thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Can you walk?" he asked. Yuna opened her eyes slowly. "You, she whispered. Leave me. Win your bet. Not happening, Jiho said. He pulled her arm over his shoulder and helped her stand. Half carrying her, he brought her to a sheltered spot he had noticed earlier. There was an indent in the rock face that would protect them from wind. He laid her down and immediately began gathering materials for a fire. Within 20 minutes, flames were burning steadily. Yuna stared at the fire as if seeing magic. How did you do that? She asked weakly. Friction and dry plant matter, Jiho said. He gave her water from his purifier. Drink slowly. Over the next hours, he taught her basic survival. How to stay warm by layering rocks around the fire to hold heat. How to find water by looking for green patches on rocks. How to build a shelter using available materials. Yuna watched everything with wide eyes, her arrogance completely gone. They traveled together for the next 2 days. Jiho continued to teach her, and Yuna learned quickly. She discovered that survival was not about technology. It was about observation, creativity, and willingness to work with what you had. On the 7th day, they reached the summit together. The emergency beacon sat in a metal box bolted to the rock. Both of them were exhausted, dirty, and hungry. They looked at each other. You saved my life, Yuna said quietly. You could have won easily if you had left me. Winning is not worth someone dying, Jiho replied. He walked to the beacon. But I did win the bet. He pressed the activation button. The beacon came to life, sending a signal to the orbiting ships. Yuna said nothing. She simply nodded. She had lost, and now she would face the consequences of her arrogance. But something had changed inside her during those days in the wilderness. She had learned that strength came in many forms, and perhaps humans were not so inferior after all. The Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity when Emperor Hyam-Woo announced the terms. Every species wanted to witness what would happen to the arrogant princess who had lost her impossible bet. The law of proving has been satisfied, the Emperor declared, his voice echoing through the hall. Princess Yuna challenged the human and lost. Now the victor must state his terms. All eyes turned to Jiho. He stood uncomfortably in his cleaned uniform. Still tired from the ordeal on Karo 7, he had spent the entire flight back thinking about this moment. What should he ask for? An apology? Technology sharing? A treaty between Earth and the Keltheran Empire? But Emperor Hyam-Woo spoke before Jiho could say anything. According to our ancient customs, the Emperor continued, when a member of the royal family invokes the law of proving and loses, the terms are set by tradition, not by the victor. My daughter spoke with absolute certainty of her superiority. She was proven wrong. Therefore, she must learn humility through service. He paused, and the entire chamber waited. Princess Yuna will marry the human Jiho and live as humans do for 5 Earth years. She will have no access to Keltheran technology during this time. She will learn to see the universe through their eyes. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. The Keltheran delegates looked horrified. Yuna stood frozen in shock, her face pale. Jiho felt like he had been hit by a transport ship. Wait, what? I did not ask for that. The terms are set by our law, not by your request, the Emperor said firmly. This is the punishment for her pride. Do you refuse? This is not what I wanted. I just wanted her to stop insulting humans. Emperor Hyam-Woo's expression softened slightly. Human, I understand. But my daughter must learn this lesson. If you refuse, she will be exiled from our empire forever. Her life will be ruined. I ask you to help me teach her humility. Jiho looked at Yuna. She stared at the floor, her usual confidence completely destroyed. He thought about how she had learned on Karo 7, how quickly she had adapted once her technology was gone. Maybe she could learn more. 5 years? Jiho asked. 5 Earth years. After that, you both will be free to separate if you wish. But during that time, you must live as married humans do. We do not have to. I mean, it will be a marriage in name only, Jiho said quickly. The Emperor nodded. The details are yours to decide. But she must live on Earth as a human wife would. Yuna finally spoke, her voice small. Father, please. Anything but this. The law is absolute, Hyanwu said sadly. You invoked it. You must face the consequences. 3 weeks later, a Kelthoran transport ship landed on Earth near Jiho's home in Seoul. Yuna emerged wearing traditional Kelthoran robes, followed by her attendant Nari and 6 guards carrying luggage. Jiho's apartment was small, just 3 rooms in a regular building. Nothing like the palace Yuna had grown up in. When she saw it, her face fell. This is where you live? She asked. Double quotes, yes. It is not a palace, but it is comfortable. Yuna walked inside slowly. The furniture was simple. The kitchen had manual appliances. The bathroom had no molecular shower, just a regular water shower. There was not even an AI assistant. Where is your household staff? Nari asked, looking around confused. I do not have staff. I take care of myself, Jiho said. Yuna will need to do the same. Unacceptable, Nari declared. The princess cannot live like this. The princess has no choice, Jiho replied firmly. Those were the terms. Yuna touched the kitchen counter, running her finger along it as if it might bite her. How do you prepare food without a synthesizer? We cook, with heat and ingredients. Cook? Yuna repeated the word like it was foreign. You mean manually combining substances and applying thermal energy? Yes, that is exactly what cooking is. Jiho's younger sister Minji arrived an hour later. She was a medical student, bright and cheerful, and she immediately started laughing when she saw the situation. So you married an alien princess because she was mean to you? Jiho, that is the weirdest revenge ever, Minji said. It was not my idea, Jiho protested. Minji walked up to Yuna and looked her over. You are very pretty. But can you do anything useful? I am educated in advanced mathematics, quantum physics, and 3-dimensional strategy, Yuna said defensively. Can you make rice? Make rice? I will take that as a no, Minji grinned. This is going to be hilarious. Jiho's best friend Doyeon visited that evening. He was an artist who painted traditional Korean landscapes. When he saw Yuna, he immediately wanted to paint her. Your bone structure is amazing, Doyeon said, studying her face. Can I paint you? Paint? You mean create a visual representation using pigments on a surface? Yuna looked confused. Why not just take a holographic image? Because painting is an art. It captures something a camera cannot. That makes no logical sense. Art is not about logic, Doyeon said happily. You have a lot to learn about being human. The first week was a disaster. Yuna tried to use the kitchen and nearly started a fire. She used an entire bottle of dish soap in the washing machine, creating a foam explosion. She could not figure out how manual doors worked and kept waiting for them to open automatically. She tried to download information directly into her brain and was shocked to learn humans could not do that. How do you learn anything? She asked Jiho in frustration. We read. We practice. We remember. That is so slow. It is how we do things. At night, they slept in separate rooms. Jiho gave Yuna the bedroom while he took the couch. It was awkward for both of them. They were married by law but were strangers in every way that mattered. Nari tried to help but made things worse. She kept treating Yuna like a princess, doing everything for her. Finally, Jiho had to ask Nari to return to the Kelthoran ship in orbit. The princess needs to learn independence, he explained. You cannot help her by doing everything for her. Nari left reluctantly, and suddenly Yuna was truly on her own. No attendants. No advanced technology. Just her and Jiho in a small human apartment. One evening, Minji came over to teach Yuna how to make kimchi. It is fermented vegetables, Minji explained. Very important in Korean food. You let food rot intentionally? Yuna looked disgusted. It is not rotting. It is fermenting. There's a difference. They spent 3 hours preparing the kimchi. Yuna's hands got dirty. The smell was strong. But when they finished, Minji smiled. See? You made something with your own hands. Does it not feel good? Yuna looked at the jars of kimchi. She had never made anything before. Everything in her life had been created by machines or servants. This was different. This was hers. It feels strange, she admitted. But yes, it feels good. Slowly, very slowly, Yuna began to adapt. She learned to cook simple meals. She learned to clean. She learned to take the subway instead of expecting transport. She walked through the streets of Seoul and saw how humans lived, worked, and played without any advanced technology. But she was still arrogant at times, still quick to compare everything to Kelteranways. And Jiho was still patient, though sometimes he wanted to shake her and tell her to stop being so difficult. They were like two planets in orbit, circling each other, but never quite touching. The question was whether 5 years would be enough to change that. 3 months into the marriage, Jiho took Yuna to a refugee center in the southern part of the city. She did not understand why at first. Humans helping other humans seemed obvious to her, not particularly noble. Why do you volunteer here? She asked as they walked through the doors. Because people need help, Jiho said simply. These families came from a war zone. They lost everything. The least I can do is help them rebuild. Inside, Yuna saw dozens of families. Humans from different nations, all speaking different languages, all looking tired and worried. Jiho went straight to work, helping organize food supplies and teaching engineering basics to some of the older children. An elderly woman approached Yuna, speaking in broken Korean. Her name was Hana, and she had fled her country with only the clothes on her back. She showed Yuna pictures of her grandchildren on an old, cracked tablet. Beautiful, Yuna said, surprising herself with her own sincerity. Hana smiled and touched Yuna's hand. You helped today? Yuna hesitated, then nodded. She spent the afternoon sorting donated clothes, serving food, and playing simple games with children who spoke languages she did not know. They communicated through gestures and laughter. At the end of the day, as they walked home, Yuna was quiet. What are you thinking? Jiho asked. Those people have nothing. No technology, no wealth, no power. But they still smile. They still help each other. I do not understand it. That is what makes humans strong, Jiho said. We do not give up, even when everything seems hopeless. And we help each other because it is right, not because it benefits us. Yuna thought about that for a long time. A week later, Jiho took her to meet his mentor. Her name was Suji, and she was 83 years old. She had been one of the first Korean engineers to work in space, back when Earth was just beginning to explore beyond its own moon. Suji's home was filled with old equipment, blueprints on actual paper, and models of spacecraft made from metal and plastic. She made tea for them using a kettle on a gas stove, and they sat on cushions on the floor. So, you are the princess who thinks humans are primitive, Suji said bluntly. Yuna blushed. I said things I should not have. Jiho told me about your people's technology. Bending space, creating matter from energy, all very impressive. Suji sipped her tea. But let me ask you something. When was the last time your people invented something truly new? Yuna frowned. We invent things constantly. No, you improve on ancient designs. Your ancestors did the inventing. You just maintain their legacy. Suji leaned forward. Humans invent because we must. We do not have matter synthesizers, so we learned chemistry. We could not bend space, so we built faster ships. Every limitation forced us to think differently, to find new solutions. You call your limitations a strength? Yuna asked. Absolutely. Necessity is the mother of invention. Your people are so advanced that you have stopped truly creating. You have stopped struggling. And without struggle, there is no growth. Those words stayed with Yuna for days. She began to see human technology differently. Yes, it was less advanced, but it was creative in ways Kelthoran technology was not. Humans built things that should not work, combined ideas that should not fit together, and somehow made it all function. The major turning point came 4 months into the marriage. A mining colony on the asteroid belt sent a distress call. An unexpected impact had collapsed the main shaft, trapping 300 miners underground. Both humans and Kelthorans worked at the colony. The Galactic Council sent their best rescue teams, but after analyzing the situation, they gave a grim report. The standard rescue equipment could not reach the miners in time. The colony would run out of oxygen in 30 hours. It would take the rescue teams at least 40 hours to drill through with conventional methods. Jiho watched the news reports with growing frustration. Then he started making calls. "What are you doing?" Yuna asked. "Looking for an alternative solution," he said. "There are 3 old human mining ships in orbit around Mars. Decommissioned, but still functional. Those ships are 40 years old. They are useless." Not useless, adaptable. Jiho pulled up schematics on his computer. If we retrofit them with thermal drills and reinforce the hulls, they could punch through the asteroid from a different angle. It would be faster than conventional drilling. "That is insane," Yuna said. "Those ships were not designed for that kind of stress. The modifications alone would take weeks. Then we work fast." Jiho sent out a message to every engineer he knew. Within an hour, he had a team assembled. They worked remotely, designing modifications and creating work schedules. Yuna watched him work through the night. His idea was reckless, dangerous, and completely illogical. The proper way was to wait. For the right equipment, do careful analysis, follow established procedures. But those procedures would not save the trapped miners. "I want to help," Yuna said suddenly. Jiho looked up, surprised. "You do?" "I know Kelthoran's structural engineering. I can help with the hull reinforcement calculations." They worked together, combining human creativity with Kelthoran technical knowledge. Jiho thought in terms of what could be done with available resources. Yuna thought in terms of what needed to be done to make it work. Together, they created something neither could have made alone. The modified ships launched 18 hours after the disaster. Pilots pushed them to maximum speed, racing against time. The thermal drills cut through the asteroid rock faster than anyone expected. With 20 minutes of oxygen remaining, the rescue teams broke through and pulled the miners to safety. 300 lives saved because a human refused to accept the impossible. The news spread across the galaxy. Humans and Kelthorans working together had achieved something neither could do alone. Emperor Haiyan Wu sent a personal message congratulating both of them. That night, Jiho and Yuna sat on the apartment balcony, looking at the stars. They were both exhausted but satisfied. "I was wrong about humans," Yuna said quietly. "You are not primitive. You are resourceful in ways I never imagined." "And I was wrong too," Jiho admitted. "I thought you were just arrogant. But you are willing to learn, to change. That takes real strength." For the first time since the marriage began, they sat in comfortable silence. Not as strangers forced together by law, but as partners who had faced a challenge and won. Yuna realized something that night. Somewhere along the way, she had stopped thinking of Earth as a punishment. She had stopped counting the days until she could leave. She was still not sure what that meant, but she knew something had fundamentally changed inside her. Jiho glanced at her and saw her expression. He felt something shift too, something he had not expected. Respect had turned into genuine liking. Liking was becoming something deeper. Neither of them spoke about it. Not yet, but they both felt it. 4 years and 11 months had passed. In 1 week, the marriage contract would end, and Yuna would be free to return to her empire if she chose. The apartment that had once felt strange to her now felt like home. She could cook traditional Korean dishes better than Minji. She volunteered at the refugee center every week. She even had human friends who knew nothing about her being an alien princess. Jiho had changed too. He had learned to see beyond species and culture, to value individuals for who they were rather than where they came from. He had also fallen completely in love with his wife, though he had never said the words aloud. They never talked about what would happen when the 5 years ended. It was like an invisible wall between them, growing larger each day. Then the crisis came. A hostile alien faction called the Draxan Confederacy launched attacks on both Earth and the Kelthoran Empire simultaneously. Their ships appeared without warning, striking military bases and civilian centers. The attacks were coordinated, brutal, and effective. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every major species gathered to discuss a response. But the council was paralyzed by politics and bureaucracy. Some species wanted military action. Others wanted diplomatic talks. Some refused to get involved at all. "We must act now," the Earth ambassador argued. "Every hour we delay, more people die. We must follow proper procedures," a council elder insisted. "We cannot rush into war." The debate went on for hours while people suffered. Yuna sat in the gallery, watching with growing frustration. Finally, she could not stay silent anymore. She stood up, and her voice rang out across the chamber. "I request permission to speak." The chamber fell silent. Many representatives knew who she was. The princess who had been humbled. The Kelthoran who lived as a human. "Speak, princess," the council elder said. Yuna walked to the center of the floor. "I have spent nearly 5 years living among humans. When I arrived, I believed they were inferior. I believed Kelthorans were superior in every way. I was wrong." She looked at the Earth delegation, then at her father in the Kelthoran section. Humans are not advanced in technology, but they are advanced in spirit. They adapt. They innovate. They refuse to accept defeat. My people are powerful, but we have grown comfortable in our power. We have forgotten how to struggle, how to truly create. What is your point, princess? The elder asked impatiently. My point is that humans and Kelthorans working together are stronger than either species alone. We proved this during the mining colony rescue. We can prove it again now. She turned to address everyone. I propose a joint task force. Human creativity and determination combined with Kelthoran technology and resources. We can stop the Draxan attacks if we work together. Impossible, a Kelthoran general said. Humans lack the training, the discipline. The decision saved 300 of our people when your procedures said it could not be done. Yuna interrupted. Do not speak to me about what is impossible. Emperor Hyanwu stood. My daughter speaks wisdom. I support this alliance. The Earth ambassador stood too. As do we. After hours of debate, the council approved the joint task force. Jiho was appointed as the human coordinator. Yuna volunteered to serve as the Kelthoran coordinator. They would work together again, but this time the stakes were much higher. The task force was assembled within days. Human strategists worked with Kelthoran tactical officers. Human engineers modified Kelthoran weapons for faster deployment. Kelthoran pilots trained human crews on advanced maneuvers. Jiho and Yuna led a daring mission to strike at the Draxan command ship. They combined human unpredictability with Keltheran precision. The mission succeeded, and the Draxan attack stopped, but victory came at a cost. During the final battle, Jiho's ship was damaged. He nearly died. Yuna stayed by his side in the medical bay for 3 days while the doctors worked to save him. When he finally woke up, she was holding his hand. "You scared me," she said softly. "Sorry." Jiho managed a weak smile. "How long was I out?" 3 days. "The doctor said you will be fine, but you need rest." The mission? Success. The Draxans have retreated. The alliance between Earth and the Keltheran Empire is being formalized. She paused, and the 5-year term ended yesterday. Jiho's heart sank. Of course, the contract was over. Yuna was free to leave. "I see," he said quietly. "Jiho, I need to tell you something." Yuna stood up, still holding his hand. 5 years ago, I thought marrying you was the worst punishment imaginable. I was arrogant, close-minded, and foolish. You have changed a lot since then. Because of you. Because you showed me patience when I did not deserve it. You taught me to see value in things I had dismissed. You showed me that strength is not about power, it is about character. She took a deep breath. I do not want the marriage to end. Jiho stared at her. What? I love you, Yuna said, her voice shaking slightly. I think I have loved you for a long time, but I was too stubborn to admit it. I do not want to return to the Empire. I want to stay here with you, if you will have me. If I will have you. Jiho laughed, then winced because it hurt. Yuna, I have been in love with you for 2 years. I just thought you would leave as soon as you could. Then we are both fools, Yuna smiled. Complete fools, Jiho agreed. He pulled her close and kissed her. 1 month later, the Galactic Council chamber hosted another ceremony. But this time, it was a celebration, not a punishment. Jiho and Yuna stood before the gathered representatives, dressed in a combination of human and Keltheran ceremonial clothes. Emperor Hyan Wu performed the Keltheran portion of the marriage ceremony. Jiho's mother performed the human portion. It was the first time in galactic history that such a union had taken place, combining 2 cultures into one. I admit something, the Emperor said after the ceremony. I orchestrated the original Bet's punishment. Jiho looked surprised. You did? My daughter needed to learn humility. I could have chosen exile or military service. But I chose marriage to a human because I knew humans could teach her what Keltherans could not. I hoped she would learn to see beyond our empire. He smiled. I did not expect her to fall in love, but I am pleased that she did. Yuna hugged her father. Thank you for the best punishment I ever received. The marriage became a symbol across the galaxy. Humans and Keltherans began working together on dozens of projects. What started as a forced alliance became a genuine partnership. Yuna and Jiho created a new initiative called the Unity Project. Its goal was to bring different species together to share knowledge and solve problems cooperatively. The project started small but grew quickly. Within a year, 12 species had joined. Minji became the project's medical director. Diane started a cultural exchange program. Even Nari returned from the Keltheran fleet to help coordinate diplomatic efforts. 5 years after the real wedding ceremony, Yuna and Jiho stood on the balcony of their new home. It was larger than the old apartment, but still simple by Keltheran standards. Their daughter Haum played inside, half human and half Keltheran, a living symbol of what 2 different worlds could create together. Do you ever regret it? Jiho asked. Leaving your empire, your old life? Yuna leaned against him. Never. I lost a bet and gained everything that matters. I found purpose, partnership, and love. What is there to regret? The arrogant princess is completely gone then. Not completely, Una grinned. I still think I am right most of the time. Only most of the time now? That is progress. They laughed together, watching the sunset. Somewhere in orbit, Kelthoran and human ships patrolled together. In the city below, humans and aliens lived side by side. The galaxy was changing, one friendship at a time, and it had all started with a foolish bet and an impossible punishment that turned into the greatest blessing either of them had ever known. Years later, when young aliens and humans asked Una how the Unity Project began, she always told them the same thing. It started when I learned that being wrong can lead you to the right place. It started when I stopped thinking about who was superior and started thinking about how we could be better together. It started the day I lost a bet to a human engineer who refused to leave me behind in the wilderness. And that human? They would ask Doc, YUN, I would smile. That human became my husband, my partner, and the person who taught me what it truly means to be strong. Not through power or technology, but through compassion, creativity, and the courage to see value in those who are different from you. The story of the bet spread throughout the galaxy, changing form as stories do. But the core truth remained. Sometimes the best punishment is actually the greatest gift in disguise. And sometimes, the beings we think are beneath us can teach us the most important lessons of all.